The Southside Hitmen rise again after taking 2 games from the Atlanta Braves last week. The White Sox do it again by taking 2 out of 3 from the world champion Los Angeles Dodgers. Are the White Sox for real? On the north side, the Cubs finish up their road trip, taking 2 out of 3 for the lowly San Francisco Giants as they return home to take on the Colorado Rockies starting tonight. In basketball, the Chicago Bulls finally have a new head coach, while in the NBA Finals, the 2025-2026 season is over as the New York Knicks are your new NBA champions. In football, the Bears are on summer vacation, while in World Cup soccer, things are heating up both on and off the field, and the Stanley Cup final has a new hockey champion. That and a whole lot more, plus Old School TV Monday, right here on Sports Zone Chicago, which starts now.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Keep him on the field. And this one, a drive into left center field. Going back is Churio at the wall. Get out! Robert Jr., his 4th of the season. And the Sox take the lead 2-1.
Armstrong gets into another one. Sends Edman back. He's watching it land in the stands. What a night from Pete Crow Armstrong. Goes wide. Up the guard again. And he scores. What a play!
On Jordan Bennington, no chance at all for the Blues netminders. Connor Bedard. Wow.
Getting what a pass. Gonzalez with the fade on the drive.
Motions left. They're blitzing. It's picked up. Caleb throws. Middle of the field. Loveland catch. Breaks away the 30. Loveland 20. Loveland 10. Loveland end zone. Touchdown Bears.
Welcome to another Monday extravaganza edition of Second City Sports. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. LaKeena McGee is she. Sidney Brown here. You know it's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, and the IG.
Be sure to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube. If you're watching us on YouTube at Sports Zone Chicago, please hype the video if you can after you like the video, of course, so we can get it out to as much people as possible. We'll make you the #1 destination for all your Chicago and national sports talk. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We're unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinion due not to our extravaganza, we call a Sports Talk Radio show. You better hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you. But if you decide to troll and/or do something silly, don't more stupid, I've given LaKeena full powers to give you dumbos to build and be a boot.
Doodles.
But before we begin, shout out to our live gang, that's LIVE, live entertainment gang that's checking us out live in the living color right now at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channels at 12:20 p.m. Central Standard Time. But as always, much love to the replay gang that's checking us out on the replay, also at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channels. Don't you ever forget our motto where we talk sports, music, or entertainment. We will provide.
Well, you provide we still the best here on Second City Sports as the White Sox take 2 out of 3 from defending champs. The Cubs finally win a series out in San Francisco. Their first time winning a series since I think like over a month. We've crowned 2 new champions at both the NBA and Stanley Cup final. Also, the U.S. has a great performance against Paraguay over the weekend as the World Cup's in full swing. Also, Old School TV Monday, and of course our buddy Herb Lawrence will talk White Sox and Bulls as we're gonna go to next, and also Bears and so much more. We're gonna be kind of run the gamut with Herb as usual. But first, we're gonna talk some Bulls. The big breaking news about just over 2 hours ago, as the Bulls, after an extensive search, according to all sources, have landed on Mr. Tiago Splitter, who was the interim coach over with Portland, led them to the playoffs after all the weirdness that happened over there. Shania reported that they landed on Splitter due to his ability to lead teams, player development, organizational alignment, franchise vision, blah, 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 etc. So he does have an NBA championship ring from the Spurs in 2014. So he does have some championship pedigree, rose to the coaching ranks. Apparently, from what I was listening to our buddies at CHGO Bulls, Matt Peck, Big Dave Watson, and Will Gottlieb. Basically, they kind of ran the gamut with their search. I think a double-digit number of guys that they talked to for the job, and we said that this was going to be something where that they would have to get somebody in place by before the NBA draft, which is in 8 days, folks. And it looks like they found their guy in Mr. Tiago Splitter.
Yeah, and congratulations to Mr. Splitter for getting a job here with the Chicago Bulls. I think this is a good hire, as we said before, as Bryson Graham said at his press conference a little bit over a month and a half ago, that this is a rebuild. We had to start over, and we had to set the template, and we had to set the culture. What is as our good buddy Jonathan Hood always says all the time, what is your mission statement? What is your purpose? What is the goal for getting what you want to get accomplished? And for this Bulls team, they're trying to get back to relevance. Of course, winning the NBA championship is the ultimate goal. But how do you go about that process? You start by hiring a head coach who's going to help you move the program along as the Bulls are trying to start with this rebuild. As you mentioned, Tiago has a championship ring with the 2014 Spurs. He's not that far removed from being a player. So any young player in the league that's played less than 3 years, in my opinion, he knows what you're going through, so he can help you from that standpoint. But from the coaching standpoint, can he get these guys motivated to play at their best? What type of roster is he going to have for next year? I know we're going to get into that deeper in just a moment, but for what this Bulls organization is trying to do with starting over, this is a good hire.
Yeah, it really is. And 41 years old, like I said, fresh, like you said, fresh off, not that far away from being a player. You saw what he did with Portland and that whole situation. Mm-hmm. Now, there are some that are saying that maybe, I know he was considered for the Portland job, but the new owner there wants to cut salary and cut money. That's a whole different conversation there. I know some people say, well, was he using the Bulls as kind of like a ploy to get more money? We'll probably never know that part. I know when they do their press, so I'm sure they're gonna have their press conference in the next day or two. It'll be interesting to see how Splitter does. We saw how he interacted with the players in Portland. They love him there. He has a good rapport with them. So it'll be interesting to see how this group of players now, again, like I said, with the draft being just in 8 days, it'll be interesting to see what happens, especially what's going to happen to guys like your Patrick Williams. What's going to happen to the last year's draft pick who never saw the floor, Noah Isingla. And of course, how is he gonna, be able to help develop with your Josh Giddeys and Matas Buzelis and guys like that? So for me, I think this is really interesting hire. I know we've had people say that is he going to be around in a couple of years, about 3 or 4 years when the Bulls are ready to win. We'll have to wait and see. But it seems like this is sort of like the hire that the Bulls seem to zeroed in on Splitter, and it looks like they got their guy.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago City. LaKeena here, kicking it with you as we start off our Monday extravaganza edition with breaking news from the Chicago Bulls as they hired Tiago Splitter as their new head coach. As you mentioned, LaKeena, he did a great job last year with Portland, led to that whole Chauncey Billups gambling fiasco, which rocked the league to start off this past season and got the Portland Trailblazers with a 42-40 record. They won their play-in tournament game against the Phoenix Suns. Stole a game from the Spurs, the defending Western Conference champions. Now we'll tell you more about the Spurs in our next break, but pushed the Spurs a little bit in that first round series. But we talked about the Portland team having young talent over the last few years. Some of them are still there. Some of them are not with their organization. But LaKeena, I'll ask you this. I think you kind of brought this up. But what is going to be the future of Matas Buzelis and Josh Giddey? I'm just curious to see what those interviews were like, because as I brought it up the last couple of weeks on the show, whoever this new coach was going to be, would they have little or very much say on who they will want to Bryce Graham and his staff to select with those 2 first-round picks, in particular at number 4, because in my opinion, that number 4 pick will set the stage of what this franchise is going to look like. I'm just curious, what was Tiago Splitter's answers to Bryce Graham when he was asked those questions about if I select this player, would you like to coach this player? How would you coach this particular player if I selected this player? I'm just curious to see what were his answers were. Will we ever know about that process? I don't know, but whoever was interviewed by the Bulls, they were asked about coaching certain players if they were to be selected with those 2 first-round picks.
Well, yeah, I think that's going to be the thing with that. I mean, it's going to be interesting, though, like you said, if, what were his answers? We'll probably never know for sure, but, what were his answers about who to pick in that number 4 spot? And look, there have been rumors that the Bulls might trade up from the number 15 spot because I guess, again, this is depending on who you ask. They want Keegan Wagler from Illinois. We'll have to wait and see if that's the case, but it's like I said. I mean, look, he'll also be one of the tallest. He'll only be the second tallest, coach. He's 6'11", of course. Bill Cartwright, of course, who coached the Bulls for a few years. He's 7'1", and it'll be interesting to see how that's gonna go with the media folks, because some of the folks there aren't very tall who cover the Bulls. So, that'll be an interesting little thing here. But yeah, I mean, look, it's interesting that he's gonna be walking into something where it's a young squad. They've got cap money. They got 2 first-round picks in the top 15 at the very least. And look, this is a good, spot for a Splitter. I mean, I think he wants to prove to people that he really can coach. And look, this is going to be interesting. The setup here is how we'll be able to do that. Like I said, how player development's been really the big thing here with him. And like I said earlier, P will, assuming that he'll still be around if they don't try to trade him. We'll see. Good luck with that contract. But, guys like your Giddies and your Montes and the rest of that group, I mean, depending on who's still going to be around next year. But I think this is going to be a fascinating hire to see how he kind of like coaches these guys up, and the guys that do bring in, and whoever they pick at number 4 or number 15 if they don't trade up. I think that's really going to be the key here, and how this team develops under Splitter.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the player development part of this, LaKeena, because I think not too many people pay attention to it until you brought up a name like Patrick Williams. Remember, he was the first pick of the old regime with AK and Mark Eversley, and it was a lot expected from him, even though he was a role player in college. He did a very good job at it, but he was expected to perform like a number 4 pick, and he just didn't live up to expectations. I know he got that contract extension before the start of this past season, but according to many, he did not live up to expectations. But on the other side of the player development for the Bulls, I know it's been a mixed bag over the last few years. Look how Ayo Dosunmu developed while he was here. Of course, he was traded to Minnesota. You saw him come up big, especially in the playoffs for the TV Wolves. Kobe White, even though Charlotte didn't qualify for the playoffs, you saw what kind of impact he had with the Hornets following the trade deadline, almost got them into the playoffs. So it's kind of been a mixed bag as far as player development for the Chicago Bulls. And as I said before, and I'll say it again, with these 2 first-round picks, it's going to set the tone of how this Bulls team is going to go moving forward. And player development is definitely going to be a huge part of it. What kind of system that Tiago Splitter is going to run? He's going to run the same system in Portland. Is he going to mix it up a little bit? Because as I said on this show for the last several weeks, this Bulls team needs to have some identity on defense. I know people want to say, well, Sid, it's an offensive league. Everybody's jacking up threes like it's going down the south. Just like we say in the NFL, you saw the NBA Finals, which we'll talk about after the break. You still need to stop somebody, especially in crunch situations. And as the old saying goes, yes, offense does sell tickets, but defense wins championships too.
And it'll be interesting to see what his staff's going to be, the makeup, because I think that's really going to be the key to see what direction this Bulls team is going to go. So we'll talk more about this, with our buddy Herb Lawrence coming up after at the top of the 1 o'clock hour. But first, New York City's partying like it's 1973. Well, maybe not literally, but as the Knicks win their first NBA title since then. This is how long it's been, folks. But yeah, we'll recap that as they made another comeback, and also too a little bit baseball as the Cubs and White Sox get weekend series wins. As I will tell White Sox fans to slow down. All right, LaKeena McGee, City Brown, Second City Sports on Sports in Chicago. We go to Hardwood and the Diamond coming up right after this.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms, on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
Got it done here. Ouch! And we're gonna make sure you lit this time. Ouch! You're not gonna get me this time.
Ow, Manny!
Oops! Let's try an easy one.
Every day, we take steps to keep the people we love safe, but some health risks are easy to miss. Ticks hiding in the yard can spread germs, like the ones that cause Lyme disease. Mice searching for food can spread bacteria that makes us sick. Mosquitoes lay eggs in standing water and can spread West Nile virus and more. Cockroaches are drawn to water in the home, leaving behind allergens that can trigger asthma attacks. Common pests can threaten our health. Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org.
Hey, this is Corey McGetty, and I listen to Sean and Maya on the morning show.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on this Monday extravaganza edition. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in the big color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid the Kid is me. LaKeena McGee is she. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG is SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, you also get an IG.
We'll recap Game 5 of the NBA Finals coming up, and we'll give our thoughts about the Cubs and the White Sox in this half hour. So if you have any questions or comments regarding those two subjects, you definitely hit us up right now at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you.
1973, and we talked about this for the last couple of shows. It was the last time that the Knicks won the NBA title. That is until Saturday, when the Knicks came back once again, another comeback, and beat the Spurs 94-90. They outscored the Spurs 29-18 in the fourth quarter. Jalen Brunson had a playoff career high with 45 points, leading the way there, and also NBA Finals MVP honors. Kicked in, he only had 2 points, but he made a couple big, he had a couple big defensive rebounds to help us kick off that rally for the Knicks. Josh Hart at 13, Mikal Bridges at 14. On the flip side, for the Spurs, 19 points for Wemby with 10 rebounds, 12 points for Devin Vassell, Julian Champagne, had 14 points. Dylan Harper had 25 points off the bench as he led all scorers for the Spurs, but it wasn't enough. Looking at all the records that the Knicks broke this year. They're 10 straight road NBA playoff game, which is among the highest. I think the Warriors, the 17 Warriors, are the only ones to have that beat. Also, among other things, Brunson, Josh Hart, and Mikal Bridges. Of course, they got together at Villanova in 2016, and they won the championship there. Now, of course, they came in. That's why they call them the Nova Knicks, as they call them. But there you get. Shout out to guys like Allen Houston, who is Nick VP of Player Leadership and Development. He's a champion, and it took this guy 41 years, but he finally got his ring. Patrick Ewing, he works with the organization, so he finally gets his ring. Rick Brunson, who was a big part of that squad in '99 that got to the finals but lost to the Spurs. Now he finally gets his ring, with his son Jalen, and a lot of moving parts here. But so Sid, what do you think about Saturday night's game and the Knicks as a whole as a champion?
We said on our last show last Friday, preview Game 5. I said I had the Spurs win. Of course, they look and they made me look like a fool, but that's a whole another story. I said these two things: the Spurs bench had to contribute outside of Dylan Harper, outside of Keldon Johnson, 7 points. You got nothing from your bench for the Spurs, so they failed at that. Number two, you had to get out to a strong start. They did, but you held the Knicks to 37 points. You got Karl-Anthony Towns in foul trouble early, even though he ended up fouling out. But you did those two things. But what did I say last Friday on the show? Can you close out games? And that answer was no. So, LaKeena, shout out to you, New York Knicks. As you mentioned, you broke down the scoring. Jalen Brunson was the man of the hour for the Knicks. He wanted the ball more than anybody else on that team. He took the bull by the horns and carried his team on his back. You mentioned some of the other players that contributed in this series. Mikal Bridges had some big shots, especially in that first half, hitting those threes where the Knicks were struggling for a while. And you mentioned about OG Anunoby. Yes, he had 11 points, but he had a couple of big free throws down the stretch. I know he missed one, but it ended up not mattering at the end. So the Knicks did play as a team down the stretch. The Spurs shot themselves to the foot again. Like, it was almost a carbon copy of Game 4. When you get a big lead, you start to relax. You start going through the motions, and you start turning the ball over, just being lazy, taking bad shots. That's exactly what happened the last Saturday night, and the Knicks took advantage of it, and that's why they won. As we said throughout the series, we'll say it again as this season is now over. It's the difference between being a young team and a team that's played together with some experience. Of course, the Knicks, with this group, have been together for the last 2 or 3 years. They know what to do in these situations. The Spurs are a young team. Hopefully, they'll learn to come back from this and challenge for the title again in the next couple of years, hopefully with Victor Wembanyama being healthy like he was this year. So it was a difference between a good young team and an experienced team, and you saw that throughout this series.
Yeah, the biggest point differential for the Knicks plus 283 in the single postseason. Again, like I said, that tops the 2017 Warriors, and of course, Brunson joins a pretty solid list. A list that includes MJ, Kareem, and Bill Walton as the only players with an NBA title, NBA Finals MVP. An NCAA title, like I said, Brunson won 2 at Villanova, and Naismith Player of the Year. I know some people said Magic, but he won the Wooden Player of the Year. Larry Bird won the Naismith one. So just for clarification on that one, but I think at the same time though, I think this Knicks squad, the other they still 16-3, I should say. That was when. That's their overall record in the playoffs, and that's like either easily like one of the fastest games of a team winning the title. That ties for the fastest, and I think this team really is. I know some people will say that they kind of backed into it. They didn't have to play too many folks, but I think people got to remember too. I mean, they were this close. They could have been eliminated. I mean, Atlanta gave them all they can handle in the first round. Then, of course, they swept the Sixers. They swept the Cavs. the Spurs, they beat them 4-1. So it's one of those things where you're just like, if Atlanta had done their job and closed out the Knicks, who knows what would have happened. But this tenacity and the with the Knicks, I think this shows what this team, and the makeup of this team is. That's how they were able to pretty much dominate after the Atlanta series. They pretty much dominated it. So the playoffs, I should say. So yeah, I think it's one of those things where I think this team will definitely be up there as one of the all-time greats, it seems.
Yeah, and Karl Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson both talked about it during their post-game interviews following the championship victory. The question was, I think it was from Miss Lisa Salters, where you were remember most about this team. Well, when our backs were against the wall, we have heart, we rise to the challenge, and we played a basketball, paraphrase a little bit. And as you mentioned, that's what this Knicks team is going to be remembered by. When their backs were against the wall, when they were challenged, they rose to the occasion, and they did what they had to do to get it done, not just with Jalen Brunson, but some of the other, and Karl Anthony Towns, some of the other guys that they don't get the notoriety like your Mikal Bridges and your OG Ananobis, and some of the other guys. Like I said, Jose Alvarado, shout out to a guy, Matt Peck from CHGO Bulls, friend of the show. I said he was going to have an impact on the series, and he did. And some of the guys that don't get the headlines is all 12 guys and 15 people with the coaching staff that can contribute equally to winning the championship. And let's give head coach Mike Brown credit as well. I know you coached some of the greats in the game, like the late great Kobe Bryant, and of course early in LeBron James's career before he went into his prime with the Cleveland Cavaliers when he was with Cleveland the first time. Of course, he started off as an assistant. Remember, he was on that 94 Nuggets team that upset the Sonics as an assistant coach under Dan Issel. He was an assistant with the Spurs when they were winning those championships back in the late 90s and early 2000s. And, of course, he gets his big break with Cleveland early in LeBron James's career. And, of course, he got a raw deal when he was coaching the Lakers. Remember that time when Kobe got hurt, they brought in Steve Nash and Dwight Howard. And I think in 2013, Howard injured his back. And, of course, Kobe tore his Achilles. And that was the end of that. He got a raw deal and got out. But, what a researcher's story for Mike Brown. Remember, he was not the Knicks' first choice to be their head coach last year. Remember, the Knicks organization asked everybody and their mama to coach the team. They were denied access, including Billy Donovan here in Chicago, the now ex-head coach of the Bulls. So they left up a guy, Mike Brown, as we talked about earlier in the year, with the system that he was running offensively, taking the ball out of Brunson's hands. It started to work early. They ran into a wall a little bit in the middle of the season, but they got the ish together after the All-Star break. And you saw what happened. It paid off in that playoff run. And one more question I want to ask LaKeena. How does Tom Thibodeau feel this morning? Because right now, he can say to himself, I got them on to the brink of the NBA Finals last year. Now they're world champions. If I was coaching them, I would still have a championship ring just like Coach Brown. But will that be the case according to some pundits? I don't think so. But if you're Tom Thibodeau, you kind of feel justified, but I don't want to say backstab, but you kind of feel justified, but at the same time, you want to say, I'll say this, you kind of feel left out because you weren't allowed to, quote unquote, finish the job.
And he probably would not have finished the job. I'm just going to say it. I'm with those pundits that say he probably would not have finished it because someone would have been, look, OG Anunoby, of course, he'll shout out to him. This is his second ring. Of course, he won with Toronto. But if you remember that year, he had appendicitis, so he wasn't able to play in the NBA Finals for the Raptors that year, so he couldn't really do anything. This time, he was able to actually play a bigger part. That he had 11 points in that game clincher. But yeah, I kind of feel like no, I don't think he would have won this title. He could make it seem like he probably could have won. I don't think he would have. I think he would have worn that team out. I think Brunson, probably would have wore himself out, and among others, Mitch Robinson, he probably would have tried to play with that broken hand instead of getting surgery. But I don't think that. No, I don't think that would have happened. I know he could probably think that, but I don't think that would have happened. But it'll be interesting to see. We'll probably never know. We'll see if he does get another coaching opportunity. I doubt it, but there's a reason why he's still not in. Still doesn't have a job right now. I'm just saying. But like I said, on the flip side though, shout out to guys like Mitch Robinson. He gets gets his ring. Guys like your Landry Shamet, gets the first ring. Jordan Clarkson, after I think 11 years in the NBA, he finally gets his ring. So these are the guys that kind of like the unsung heroes, if you will, about finally getting that ring, getting over that hump. And individually, especially. So I think for me, I think this is really what needs to be celebrated is, those players that I mentioned. And like I said, the Karl Anthony Towns and everything he's gone through the last few years and in his whole life, basically, his whole, not just basketball career, but his whole life in general, finally getting a chance. You saw the moment he shared with his fiance, of course, singer Jordan Woods, and also to his dad, Cat Senior, and like I said, OG Anunoby, who, like I said, played a bigger part in this than he did, with Toronto. Like I said, he had appendicitis, so he wasn't able to finish up what he started there, but he did get a second ring. Like I said, your Josh Hart, your Mikal Bridges, and Jalen Brunson, of course, they teamed up to win a title back in 2016. They were able to, get a ring now, and it's kind of interesting though to see these individual stories. We'll talk about that with the Hurricanes later on, but this is definitely one of those things where let's not talk about like stuff like Cole could have done this. No, let's celebrate what this team has done and how dominant they were as going into the winning their the tie for the Knicks the first time over a half century.
I'm glad you brought up Karl Anthony Towns. As I mentioned a few moments ago, remember the Knicks struggled in the middle of the year, and many Knicks fans and pundits questioned whether Karl Anthony Towns had the toughness, had the grit, especially after the way that the playoffs ended last year. Would he have enough stamina to withstand the pressure of playing on a consistent winning team? Of course, he answered that question with a resounding yes. Yes, he fouled out in the game on Saturday, but he was a big player down the stretch after the All-Star break. He was a big dominant force, along with Jalen Brunson, where they mattered most during the playoffs. Before Game 5 last Saturday, LaKeena said that Karl Anthony Towns was your series MVP. Of course, Jalen Brunson got that with the 45-point performance, but Karl Anthony Towns was playing at MVP level during these finals, so he answered the bell, and I don't think his toughness should ever be questioned again. I saw one person say this on the X machine over the last 24 or 40 hours or so. Of course, we talked about Giannis Antetokounmpo, where he's supposed to go. I think you could kill those rumors now that Antetokounmpo should be traded for Karl Anthony Towns for the New York Knicks. I think that rumors should be dead.
Yeah, well, to be honest, the rumors, first we thought it was going to be the Celtics. Now they're saying that the Heat are the front runners. So, yeah. So, again, wake me when they actually, the trade actually does happen. Now, as far as the Spurs on the flip side, I know Wemby he caught some flack. He didn't shake hands with anybody. He just ran off the court. He apologized and said
that whole team.
Yeah. So, in hopes of, perhaps maybe getting back. But look, I'm sure you look at the Thunder, the Thunder, when they had Russ, KD and Harden, I'm sure they said the same thing after losing to LeBron, Wade, and Bosh. Well, we saw what happened after that. So, especially with teams like Denver, could be back. The T-Wolves, you got to think, depending on what they do in the offseason, you got to think they'll be back. Houston, same thing. Maybe you could put the Clippers in there, depending on what they do. Golden State, we'll see what they do through the draft and such. But like I said, there's no guarantee that you'll be back. So I know Spurs fans you're trying to take solace. I know De'Aaron Fox did not have a great series. Okay, I'm gonna say this once. Don't put him in the same category with that lady that killed Selena. Don't do that. So whoever tweeted that should be ashamed of themselves. But I won't get into a tangent about that. But just wanted to say that out loud real quick. But yeah, I mean, I know De'Aaron Fox, and all that. But as I said, the Spurs, look, they're young. They'll learn from experience, but it doesn't mean that they'll get back into the finals. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, you're correct, LaKeena. It doesn't guarantee that you're going to get back. Remember, after that 2012 series loss for OKC, they traded James Harden. Then next year to the Houston Rockets, they decided to resign Serge Ibaka. They finally got past the Spurs a couple years later, but lurking in the shadows were the Golden State Warriors. But getting back to the Spurs, they led 72% of the series, but as we said before, they failed to close out. In this last Saturday night's Game 5 was another poor example of that. You mentioned about De'Aaron Fox. We do have to give him grace a little bit because he's been playing on the injured ankle, but he wasn't the only one that made mental mistakes throughout this series for the Spurs. Victor Wembanyama with those flagrant fouls. One more flagrant foul, he would have been suspended just about for the remainder of the series. Yeah, other guys that committed silly turnovers as well. We talked about Dylan Harper, he was the only star that came off the bench that did anything for the Spurs. Everybody else had to disappear in that. And I agree with our guy, Scott Lewis from the Barber's Chair Network. Dylan Harper should be a starting point guard for the Spurs next year. The two things that the Spurs have to do this summer, get some guys in there that can come off the bench and score. And number two, find a trade partner for De'Aaron Fox. I know there's been rumors that he should be traded to the Bulls. Whether that happens or not, that remains to be seen. But your two goals for the Spurs going into next year, getting a veteran guy that can come off the bench and score, move Dylan Harper to the starting spot, and number three, try to trade that contract of De'Aaron Fox's.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see what happens with both these teams this offseason. All you New York fans, I know there's going to be a parade, I believe, on Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken. On Thursday. And I know Jalen Brunson making the rounds. They were on GMA earlier. He was on The View. I'm sure they're going to be on Jimmy Fallon as well tonight. So, yeah, party hard, Knicks fans, but don't go too far. Just saying. I know it's been about 50-some years for a lot of y'all. Some of y'all weren't even born yet, but kind of go back into try to be respectful in your celebrations. As you listen to Second Stage Sports on Sports of Chicago. LaKeena, McGee, Steve Brown with you. We're going to wrap things up here, the hour number one, talking some baseball. The White Sox win 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers, the reigning champion Dodgers, thanks to home runs by Costa Montgomery, Sam Antinati, and Chase Mydroff in the 6-run 6th inning. Like I said, the bullpen, the one thing about the Dodgers, the bullpen's been the issue for the Dodgers this season. And look, they almost got no hit by Yamamoto. A big, nice pitcher performance by him to win that game on Saturday. The Dodgers. I want to warn White Sox fans. I know I saw Montgomery's comments, saying that, hey, you know what, take us seriously. We're not gonna, you're not gonna, play us, and it'll be an automatic win. I get that, but you better be careful because, look, there are gonna be teams that are gonna be coming for you now, and look, you said you want people to take you guys seriously. I don't want White Sox fans to go off their skis and get too far ahead of themselves. Because I saw a couple of, we might win the whole thing. Slow down, folks. We're only in mid-June. A lot could happen between now and then.
Let the Sox fans have their moment, LaKeena. It's been 3 straight losing 100-plus loss seasons. No one expected the White Sox to be in first place by June 15th. They are a half a game ahead of Cleveland. Now, am I going to sit here and say they're going to win the whole thing? No. Am I going to sit here and guarantee a division championship? No. Am I going to sit here and guarantee that the Sox are going to go to the playoffs? No. What I'm saying right now is let the White Sox fans have that moment. No one expected the Sox to be in first place this year. This was supposed to be another development year. I told you that they weren't going to lose 100 games. I'm damn sure of that now, outside of a historic collapse. But this White Sox team is very competitive. You got guys that want to play for each other. It starts with their on-field manager, Will Venable, holding these guys accountable. It starts at the top above him with Chris Getz. Accountability is the name of the game with that whole organization. Now, there's some things that must improve on. Of course it is. Every team in the American League, especially in the AL Central, is flawed. But for the White Sox, what they're doing right now, I think the majority of fans, including yours truly, are appreciating it for what it is. As we talked about on the show last Friday, they met just about every challenge that the teams that were better than them that they played on their schedule, with the exception of the couple. They took care of the Cubs. They took care of the Padres. They took care of the Braves for what it was worth. Their third game will be made up in August, by the way. They took care of the Dodgers, whether Ohtani played the whole series or not. You beat the teams you're supposed to be in your schedule. You are where you are. So don't apologize for it. Be happy for what you have right now. But many logical Sox fans, including yours truly, we know what the road lies ahead. And the Sox keep getting these breaks. Of course, Aaron Judge will miss the series against the Yankees. Jose Ramirez, we'll talk about them, about Cleveland in our next hour. But it looks like the Sox will be catching a break when they play Cleveland here next week. So the White Sox, they can't control outside the circumstances outside their locker room. They just play the teams they're supposed to play. They're playing with confidence. They're playing for one another. You appreciate for what it is, but still a long way to go.
Well, if you want to use that logic, I mean, the Dodgers are shorthanded too, so that's the logic you want to use. I mean, let's be 100 about this. So yeah, well, look, you can do whatever you want, but like I said, no, look, you're going to be facing Yankee squad. They've actually been playing pretty well without Aaron Judge. So I'm just saying, don't get upset if these teams. You wanted to show us, you'll show us, but look. Whatever, but yeah, White Sox fans are, most of them are pretty logical like yourself, but there are some that are just, let's just say they give White Sox fans a bad rap. Now going to talk about the Cubs, as far as they're concerned, they do win a series out there in the Bay Area. They haven't won a series in about a month and a half. Now, Logan Webb had, I heard that said, Logan Webb had a nice
It's true, though. They haven't won a series in a month.
Yeah, he had a 7-hitter. It was tough for them because he was like one of their best pitchers. I'm talking about for the Giants this year. But look, Seiya Suzuki, I know he was a little bit banged up there, but PCA hit a home run on Saturday. The bats came alive, and the pitching was actually really solid. So that's the key here, and hopefully they can, they're back at home, and they play the Rockies. We'll talk about the Rockies in a second here. Starting tonight, but yeah, I mean, hopefully, the Cubs can finally take advantage of that soft part of their schedule and get to, getting back to, on track as they should be.
Yeah, you mentioned PCA is heating up with his bat. He went 2 for 4 yesterday. Alex Bregman, who had a home run on this West Coast road trip, he's starting to heat up. He also went 2 for 4 yesterday. Quietly, Michael Busch is starting to heat up. He went 1 for 4 yesterday. Ian Happ is starting to heat up a little bit. I know he went 0 for 4 yesterday, but he's starting to heat up as well. As we talked about before on the show, the Cubs offense is built on the home run. As we talked about with the other team, with the White Sox, when the home runs are not there, how can you score runs consistently without the long ball? The White Sox have been able to do that. The Cubs have been able to do that at times this year, but not on a consistent basis. And with their pitching starting to slow down a bit, the Cubs got to get aggressive of producing runs without the home run ball. I want to see them try to do that as they take on Colorado and Toronto with their homestand coming up starting tonight.
And like I said, I mean, the pitching actually was pretty good those first 2 games. Like I said, the helping out, I guess, the bat. Ben Brown had only allowed 1 run and 7 hits, so he had a nice start on Saturday. The Cubs also looked really good on Friday as well. Michael Busch had a 3-run home run, so it's going to be interesting, though. Like I said, I mean, the Rockies, they're coming off a big series. We'll get to that during the 1 o'clock hour, but real quick, your starters for both of these series coming up. We'll start with the White Sox against the Yankees. Should be a good one here. You got Davis Martin against Garrett Cole out there in New Yankee Stadium. That should be a fun one tomorrow. Anthony Kay up on Wednesday. He'll be up against Carlos Rodon, and Sean Burke against Ryan Weather. So that should be a fun series and such. And it's another Wednesday game will be on Prime Video. So White Sox fans, you'll still be able to listen to it on, of course, ESPN Chicago. Now, as far as the Cubs-Rockies series starting tonight, let's see if I can get up real quick. Shota, hopefully he can get back on track after a tough last couple of starts against Michael Lorenzen. Then you've got Edward Cabrera against Brian Feltner. And, of course, to finish up that series, it'll be Javier Assad, who's been really solid for the Cubs against Sean Sullivan. So that is your schedule for both these series coming up for both the White Sox and Cubs.
Stay tuned for more sports and more fun as Second City Sports the Monday extravaganza continues with the Chicago sports media giant, Mr. Herb Lawrence, talking Chicago sports and more. I'm Sid, that's LaKeena. You're listening to Sports Zone Chicago.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
How do you take care of your mind health?
For my mental health, I meditate in the mornings.
I have my dogs. They're the best.
I just find ways that help me just relax.
Finding things that make me happy, like being close to my family.
I meditate a lot and read books.
I have hobbies outside of the game. I'm able to switch off. I'm able to turn my brain off from the game of basketball.
Your mind health matters.
Your mind health matters.
It's a romance sport. What? It's a romance sport like that.
Your Marine Corps' way of life is to defend the American way of life. Every day, no matter where we serve, we take a stand for our nation, for each other, for us all. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Everybody in a work zone is someone somebody.
This is my mom. She works for KDOT.
This is my dad.
This is my mom.
This is my daddy.
This is my sister.
This is my daddy.
This is my son, Scott. He was killed while working in a highway work zone. When you drive through a work zone, drive like a life depends on it. Because it does.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports in the Monday Extravaganza Edition. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. LaKeena McGee is she. Sidney Brown here is me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, again, the IG.
We're going to talk about the Chicago White Sox and a whole lot more with our very special guests regarding Chicago sports and more coming up. If you have any questions or comments regarding Chicago sports with our very special guest friend of the show, you can definitely hit us up right now at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get that up on the screen for you.
You know him, you love him. He was at 670 The Score as well as CHGO. Now he's doing his thing with the podcast and us and things like that. We'll tell you more about that later. But here he is, though, the one, the only, the fabulous, the super cool Mr. Herb Lawrence. Herb, how are you?
Yay! Guys, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on again. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So what do you think about this start that the White Sox are having so far this season?
Very unexpected for the White Sox to be doing the things that they're doing with the teams that they're playing against. I just completed a tweet that's saying the White Sox are competing against the 3 top teams in the National League, which most say that the National League is far superior, especially this year, to the American League. And so if you're getting those delusions of grandeur, if they're in your mind that the White Sox could compete for a World Series, here's your proof that they've gone against the Dodgers, the Braves, and the Brewers. In those 9 games, they've won 5 of those games. Or they've won 4 of those games. They got pretty beat by the Brewers, but they've done very well for themselves versus the top teams in this National League. And now they go against the top team in the American League when they resume play tomorrow in New York in the Boogie Down Bronx. So I think this start the White Sox have had is surprising to every single person, maybe outside of that clubhouse over there in 35th and Shields. Because if you look back at some of the spring training footage, they had a belief that they were better than people were giving them credit for. And I remember the outsized expectations that others in our industry were saying. They're like, oh, these White Sox, they might compete. And I poo-pooed that. I was like, they've lost 100 games in 3 consecutive seasons. You think they're just going to go from that to competing all of a sudden? I was wrong. I'm happy to say I'm wrong, because these guys not only compete, they take it to teams. Like the Dodgers had them down on Sunday. They had them down on Friday. Both of those games, the White Sox said, okay, that's enough. We're going to score all our runs in one inning on Sunday and do it by the long ball. Yeah, you're going to bring in your relievers after the starter gives up that long home run to start the inning off without Sam Antonacci. Then you're going to bring a reliever in, and you're like, all right, we're going to cool down the fire after they tie this game up. Nope, Benintendi double. Then a home run again by Montgomery. Then you get the Chase Maedroff opposite field home run. Like, everybody on this team is contributing, whether you're pitching, whether you're hitting, whether you're doing fielding, the manager, even Chris Getz is doing a great job this year. Everything's running on all cylinders right now. As a skeptical White Sox fan, I'm enjoying it, but waiting like cautiously for the other shoe to drop. But it's not dropping versus the good teams, so I'm not sure it's going to drop versus the mediocre to bad teams.
Yeah. Before we get started, Herb, I just wanted to say publicly it was nice seeing you again last Saturday at the Chicago Sports Bums tailgate. Finally got a chance to meet your old, still good friend, but old co-worker, Chris Tannehill, the best sound man on Chicago radio, especially on Chicago Sports Radio. I just wanted to say that. But I wanted to ask you about Taka Murakami. I know he's currently injured with that right hamstring. If everything goes well, he should be ready to go following the All-Star break. But talk to us about the impact that he had on this team. I think many White Sox fans, including yours truly, thought that he would have some great moments in a White Sox uniform, but being at the top of the leaderboard in home runs, no one saw that coming this early. Of course, until he injured his hamstring in that last week in May against Detroit. Talk to us about his impact, but on the field and in the clubhouse he's had on these guys, because obviously the guys have really rallied around him a little bit more now since he's been hurt.
Yeah, this is the thing that I've wanted the White Sox to dip their toes in for a long time, the Japanese market. Because, yes, while I think most in baseball recognize that Japanese professional league as still kind of a step below Major League Baseball, their best come over here and they dominate. Like, who's the best pitcher? You could say Yamamoto the other day, what he did to the White Sox. Or you could say his teammate, Ohtani. Who's the best? Sorry about that. My thing got disconnected. The best hitter is Ohtani, and the best player is Ohtani. And I had very little doubts that Yamamoto was going to come over here and mash. He's going to hit home runs. And he overextended my expectations. I had him down for like 35 home runs. He's going to get that with missing almost a month and a half still. He's got 20 home runs already, and he's going to miss so much time. His impact on the team, I think, is like, hey, I'm a good player. Like, last year, you had a first base situation that was less than ideal. Like, Miguel Vargas was all right, but he wasn't the guy he is right now at third base. And you had to go for years with Andrew Vaughn or the Gavin Sheets of the world, who were terrible as White Sox. And they've gone on to have, varying levels of success on their other teams. But as White Sox, they were terrible. It's one of the positions the White Sox have struggled with ever since Jose Abreu has left. And that's a weird thing to say as a team that's had Frank Thomas, Paul Konerko, and Jose Abreu pretty much in succession of not having to worry about first base for a long time. They had to struggle those years where it was very lean of having subpar first baseman. And now that you're having a great first baseman, both with the field and with the bat, you see the results on the field that the team is getting back to respectability. And I think it's it's not a coincidence that having not a solid top-notch first baseman and third baseman for so many years kind of cost the White Sox a lot of games. And you already know the outfield situation, the right field situation has been in flux for a long time. And it seems like the White Sox are fixing their long-term two problems they've had for decades now. Right fielder, everyday right fielder, and second baseman. So it feels like, when you fill in the holes with Major League Baseball players, weirdly enough, Major League Baseball games are a little bit easier to play.
That is very true. And, look, probably, in addition to the team itself, I think one of the bigger surprises is Davis Martin. He's tied with Gavin Williams, the Guardians, and Aaron Ashby for the Brewers with the most wins at 9. Do you think he's up there in contention for the AL Cy Young? I know we're not even happy to see that. That's why I'm employing White Sox fans to kind of slow it down a little bit, take it one series at a time. But where do you think Martin is up there with the Cy Young, among the leaders for the Cy Young?
Yeah, I mean, Cam Splitter himself, the guys you just mentioned, he's lucky he's in the American League because he's in the conversation. If he was in the National League, there'd be no conversation because the guy, Jacob Mizorowski up there in Milwaukee's already got that locked down. If Jacob Mizorowski has an injury, then it's Mason Miller. So it's like, oh, it's already game over in the National League. The American League, Davis Martin has a chance, and he's been doing sensationally this year. I mean, his rookie year, if you guys recall that, he was having an awesome rookie year. I think a sub-3 ERA in his last start versus Minnesota at the end of the year, gave up a bunch of runs and ballooned his ERA to the 4s. And so people look back at that. It's like, oh, he was not good his rookie year, and he's come out of nowhere. People who saw that rookie year kind of saw some of this coming. I didn't think top of the rotation stuff like he's showing this first half, but I saw something that he was going to be a bulldog at worst, middle of the rotation starter that can give you quality innings, and he's doing that and much more for the White Sox. His pitch mix is ridiculous. I mean, the kick change has changed his whole arsenal and has changed his whole projection system from where he's a middle of the rotation guy to a top of the rotation guy now, because you can't sit on fastball, slider, sweeper, sinker all the time. You got to watch out for that kick change, which has a little bit more movement at the end of the cycle. So I think that Davis Martin has set himself up both for an all-star appearance. I think that's already locked down. If not, the starting pitcher in the all-star game when they go to Philadelphia in the Midsummer Classic. So he's made himself a lot of money. The only downside of Davis Martin is his breakout comes when he's 29 years old. He'll be age 30. And so some of the people, when he does become a free agent, which is like 2-3 years away from now, will be like, oh, he's a little long in the tooth. And so I feel bad for him that he had that Tommy John that took essentially 2 years away from his productive pitching, and that he won't be cashing in on the big time check that he should be cashing in on, because he'll be starting his career and starting his breakout at such an old advanced age at 29 years old. God forbid.
We're talking Chicago White Sox and everything else, Chicago sports and more, with our buddy Herb Lawrence right here on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. See LaKeena here kicking it with you. Continuing with the White Sox, Herb, I want to go to some of the unknown players for the White Sox outside of White Sox Nation. Guys like Chase Maidra, who's been heating up with the bat lately, and Sam Antonacci. You mentioned Miguel Vargas earlier. I think he should be packing his bags to Philadelphia for the All-Star game next month. Talk about these two guys in particular, Sam Antonacci and Chase Maidra. Both those guys are hitting well in their respective spots in the lineup. Sam Antonacci at the top, Chase Maidra batting 5th to 6th in the middle of that lineup.
Both professional hitters, both guys who do everything is necessary to stay major league ready and stay on the major league roster, because they probably had to because of their stories. I mean, Chase Maidra went to University of San Diego, undersized, got picked pretty decently from the Boston Red Sox, and was thought to be like a throw-in in the Garrett Crochet trade, where you got Braden Montgomery back and you got Kyle Teal and, of course, Wickelman Gonzalez. When that trade was made, everybody was like, well, Chase is most MLB ready out of the 4. He'll probably make the major leagues first. I think he did. He beat Kyle Teal by a month. And so I think that he's a guy that every White Sox fan thought Nick Madrigal was going to be. He hits the ball well. He runs the bases well. He fields the position well. He's just that guy. And you saw it yesterday with the hit up the middle, I think in the 9th inning versus Sir Anthony Dominguez. He's right there. He does a diving stop and then shovels the ball to Colson Montgomery to get the clutch force out at second base. His baseball IQ is just off the charts. It's just so infectious around the team after having so many baseball players, Lenny Sosa being one of them, that had low baseball IQ, didn't know where the ball was going next or where he was going next. Chase Maidra thinks the game, and you can tell that he is a guy that your favorite team, or if he's on your favorite team, you're going to love him. If he's on the other team, you're like, oh, this guy's just such a pest. And that's exactly what Sam Antonacci is, just from the other side of the plate. Like, he's a left-handed pest. He gets bad on ball. His first home run was an inside-the-park home run. Of course it was, because he's, that hustle guy. He's adapted to left field, even though, left field, he's not playing it at a all-star level. He's a converted infielder trying his best out in left field. And how many diving stops has he made this year? How many times he's thrown somebody out from left field? Like, the guy is giving his all at a position that he is not familiar at. And I guarantee you give him this full year and the next, he'll be as good as left fielder as you could be in the major leagues if he stays there, because he just seems like that guy that is dogged in his research and his preparation to get better every day. And you can tell the White Sox, as I've said on a tweet, that the magic wand is cute. I love the story with Mike Vassell and Jordan Leisure buying the magic wand off of Amazon. But it's the players and the vibes and the culture that you create that get you wins. And you could see the delineating line when he made the move to the major leagues. That's Sam Antonacci. I think the White Sox were 1-6. Since then, I believe they have, they have 38 wins now, so they're 37 and whatever the loss total is, but they're way above 500. So it's not really, causation, but correlation, you could maybe say so. Like, he came on the team, they started winning, and you can see the character that he is that kind of is infectious. The barking like a dog or acting like an ape when somebody hits a home run, the antics he does in the clubhouse, and the funny jokes that he has. He's like, in their off day when they had to go to the this gala, he's wearing this ill-fitted suit because he's just Sam Antonacci. I'm a baseball player. I got a suit because I have to go to the events like this, but I'm not doing all that stuff. So he's like the pride and joy of Illinois too. He's a Springfield native and a guy that you should be rooting for no matter what. But that's a little bit extra because we don't get a lot of Illinois born and bred baseball players here in the White Sox or in Major League Baseball in general.
Now the pitching, we'll continue on with the pitching here. Now the relief has actually been okay. Grant Taylor has been pitching very well in relief. Sir Anthony Dominguez, who they brought in, has had his moments, both good and bad. So where do you see the pitching and we'll talk about the relief pitching and if they can keep it up.
Yeah, I thought it was a mistake to go and get Sir Anthony Dominguez. Firstly, because I didn't think they were going to be competing for anything. So I was like, why are we buying and spending big money on a reliever when we're not right there to care about winning games? I thought this year was a 100% developmental year. We're not competing. Nothing was going to happen. So spending money on a team that doesn't spend a lot of money, that money that you're spending for that reliever is going to just subtract from you getting better somewhere else. But he's been shaky, as I think I forgot who it was, either Beefloaf or Brett has done the chart where you're, at the top you're Sir Anthony Dominguez, in the middle you're like just Anthony Dominguez, and at the end you're Tony Dominguez. And he's been performing like Tony Dominguez way, way too much this year for anybody's liking. I think he just gets off and he's like performs at his best when there's some stress going on, like in self-induced stress. He walked the first guy, I think he walked the second guy, and then got an out, and then automatically gave a four pitch walk to Shohei Ohtani, like you're supposed to, and then eventually gets out of that ninth inning where he had a 3-run lead and pretty easy lineup coming up at the end. I think it was like 8, 9, and 1, so it's tough at the end, but you don't want to face the one part. And he put himself in that one part where it's going to be a deadly thing if he gave up that home run to Shohei Ohtani if the base wasn't open at the time. So I don't know where the White Sox are going to go because they can't continue having him in high leverage situations, putting him in those situations to get beat. Now you're talking about Grant Taylor. He wasn't available because he was in the middle innings in the higher leverage situations to get from the 6th and 7th inning when you took over the lead to give the ball to Anthony Dominguez in the 9th inning. So I think Grant Taylor is ultimately going to be in that same role because he's a starting pitcher by trade. So he can give you a little bit more lengthy appearances than Sir Anthony Dominguez or most of those pitchers back in the bullpen for the White Sox. But if I had my druthers, I would be putting him at whatever high leverage position like Will Venable used him yesterday instead of just at the end of the game. And, they won them the game. Like, it stemmed the tide. The Dodgers didn't score any more runs until the 9th inning, or they scored that home run. They hit a home run off of Grant Taylor in his 2 innings of work. But, you're going to expect that with the Dodgers' explosive offense. But I think he's been a superstar. He's going to be a superstar in this league for years to come. And I'm just excited for more of these type of pitchers. Doing this with pitchers who are in the starting roles right now that haven't done as well as a starter, but they have great premium stuff like Grant Taylor will has. And then eventually down the road, maybe we'll give you a chance to be a starter. But right now, this team is competing for a division title. How about you give us a couple innings in the backside? That's how I want the White Sox to get the relief pitchers, by giving us failed starters like the relief pitchers used to be. It's like, okay, you can't do it as a starter for 6 innings, but can you do it for one? Great. And that's what I want from the White Sox.
Yeah, I thought Cerny Dominguez gave us a heart attack yesterday, but I think that he should not be the closer going forward. It should be, like you mentioned, Grant Taylor or Ryan Hudson, whoever Will Venable feels that's the best matchup for that date. So, Dominguez should be relegated to the back end of that bullpen as far as the 7th guy or a mop-up guy, but we'll see what Will Venable does moving forward. One more question I want to ask you, Herb, before we move on about the White Sox, another unsung hero, and that's Tristan Peters. I know outside Chicago, he's going to be known for breaking up Yoshinobu Yamamoto's no-hitter last Saturday with that home run, which I almost called, by the way, but that's neither here or there. But he's had his moments this year coming up with big hits. He's also doing it with the glove, of course. He had that game-winning hit in the home opener against Toronto back in April. There's another unsung hero that you can, I guess, attribute Chris Getz finding him in a scrap heap. He's been another big addition to this team this year.
Yeah, indeed. When I very much opposed his being on the White Sox, I was like, why are we doing this rehashing of a guy that never was? But, he's turned into a premium hitter. Like, he's hitting 300 in Major League Baseball nowadays, almost unheard of. And he's fielding his position very well. He hit his first Major League home run this year. Good for him. And he's been playing some solid center field. So what the White Sox have done is found a diamond in the rough. Like, he is paid off in spades, like huge dividends for what Chris Getz has done there. And Ryan Hudson, the batting guy guru for the White Sox, has fixed his swing apparently, because this guy seems like a different hitter than he was in the minor leagues, and that is a testament to his work and a testament to the White Sox hitting staff for getting him as right as they can. I think that, if the White Sox want to strike while the iron's hot, and a position that they could replace is center field. Like, they don't necessarily have a quote unquote center fielder available, but Braden Montgomery has played center field throughout his career in college and in the minor league. So I think the transition there wouldn't be that drastic if they wanted to show some team was showing interest in Peters, and you needed a reliever, say, as we were talking about before, a guy in the back end of the bullpen to shut down some innings, and somebody says, let's do an even swap. I would trade him away to get something else that the White Sox need this year. Because while I love his season, I'm skeptical. I don't know if there's gonna be a pumpkin and it's gonna turn midnight and he's gonna go back to regular Tristan Peters that's throughout the minor leagues. A fine hitter, a solid hitter, but not this. This guy is the best season he's had in any professional season he's ever had. So some might say he's just finding himself and now he's right. And that's cool. But I don't want to be holding the bag again for Gordon Beckham or the Carlos Quentin 2008 year, and then he just goes off the table type of stuff. I want to cash in on a guy that's unexpectedly good. And when you become unexpectedly good, hey, there's something might sustain, but more than.
All right, so let's switch gears here and talk some Bulls. Of course, the Bulls broke some news a couple of hours ago, announcing Tiago Splitter, or they're about to announce Tiago Splitter as their head coach. They also have 2 top 10 picks, top 15 picks, I should say, coming up with the draft in a little over a week from now. Where do you see the Bulls in the future with Coach Splitter and these draft picks?
It's a hell of a pick right there. I saw what he did in Portland in a really tough situation out there where they had to fire Chauncey Billups because of his involvement in a gambling ring, and the team was in shambles at the time. I mean, I thought, the whole year would energize the fans, but he was hurt. It was understood that he was going to be hurt for the year, and he's got the Achilles from the year before. But young stars who hadn't proven themselves, the Scoot Hendersons of the world, Donny Avia turned into an all-star under him. So I think that he did a very good job, and somehow, some way, Portland Trailblazers ownership and general managers didn't want that guy around again, didn't sign him to extension when they were seeing this guy take his team that shouldn't be in the playoffs to the playoffs in the Western Conference. Amazing. But they let him go, and smart move by the Bulls front office staff to go and get this guy, to see that he has talent and his message resonating with young people in Portland. And that's what the Bulls have. A bunch of young players here in Chicago. And if Tiago Splitter can do half the job that he did out there in Portland, the Bulls are in the right track and the good track of getting good really soon. With those first pick or the fourth pick overall and the 15th pick overall, you can get two solid players. One really good player, and I hope that Caleb Wilson slips to the Bulls so he can develop under the Bulls and his athleticism can shine through with this team. And then I don't know who they're going to get at 15, but if they can find a player that works better in their system than most players do, and they got to trade up from that 15 position to get up to that player, I hope they would. I would pray that they would go up and get the players that they need and they think can work under Tiago Splitter's system. And it seems like they have a forward vision looking both general manager and forward vision thinking head coach, and a guy who played in the league, Tiago Splitter, longtime NBA guy, and I think also a Spanish team national player. I remember him from way back in the day. So the respect in the locker room is going to be there because the bona fides are there, and so is the brief time he did play or was the coach in Portland. So I think this move is a home run hire. All the names I've heard out there to get Tiago Splitter out of all the names, awesome.
Last moment too with our guy Herb Lawrence, a Chicago sports media giant, no pun intended. He's hanging on with us right here on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sidney LaKeena here kicking it with you. Herb, let's move over to the Bears. Of course, yours truly, and along with a few others at the tailgate last Saturday, we were discussing about the Chicago Bears stadium situation. Me and LaKeena had our say on it over these last few weeks as the news has been trickling out about the Bears moving forward to explore options using air quotes in Hammond, Indiana. Me and LaKeena gave our thoughts. You heard what I had to say last Saturday at the tailgate. What are your thoughts about about this Bears stadium situation? I think many of us want this situation to end. It's been dragging out for so long, too long, in my opinion.
I just want to start with the Bears have never had their own stadium ever in their history of their franchise as Chicago Bears. Wrigley Field, Soldier Field, not owned by them. So I'm always confused by people who understand the Bears' history of that and the Bears' futility under the McCaskies, and then side with the Bears in this whole saga. Yeah, there's plenty of blame to go around. Illinois politicians have that same history of messing up deals and doing things shady. Got it. So there's blame on that side. But to automatically, since the Bears had a good year and you're a Bears fan, side with the Bears on them exploring Hammond for further opportunities. They don't have a place in Hammond. How are you exploring it and you don't have a place out there? And the place that you do have is not big enough for you to build a whole complex that you want, an entertainment complex. If you're not doing that, you shouldn't move from Soldier Field, where it's at right now, in beautiful Chicago, downtown Chicago, to Hammond, Indiana for what? Another stadium that doesn't have what you want there? You're just wasting time. And then you still have the Arlington property, which you bought 5 years ago. And that's the only thing I won't blame on Kevin Warren, is that he jumped into a mess where the Bears bought a plot of land without having any of the necessary things to go forward in the process. The main thing that they don't have is money. They're broke. Their money is only is in the team. Pat Ryan, one of the owners, has money. As the chairman of Aon Corporation, he has money. And you saw how he has money because he financed, him and some of his people financed the Northwestern building up there in Evanston. Did you hear any hubbub about anything going on with the Illinois legislature with that? No. Privately financed. It was privately financed because Pat Ryan has his own money and he can pay for the stadium that need to go up there in Northwestern. How about Joe Mansueto? Billionaire guy who's happens to own the Chicago Fire. Has he had any troubles with the Fire and their new McDonald's stadium that's going to be going up in the 78? No. He's financing the building. That's what's wrong with the Bears. They have to borrow money. This is going to have to be, they want tax certainty because they're broke. They want all these other things. They want these tax breaks. There's other things that they, don't deserve, firstly, and secondly, are unfair to the taxpayers of Illinois because of the Bears. The other teams don't worry about that stuff because they got money. They understand this building's going to pay for themselves tenfold, like SoFi gets out in LA. It paid for itself because they privately financed that building. And then the city of Inglewood, got the fundamental things around it fixed, the infrastructure. And that's what the governor here of Illinois is going to do. But the Bears want so much more things than Illinois is willing to give them. And I applaud Illinois politicians say, yeah, we don't want to lose you, but also you're not going to bend us over and take what you want here. So go to Indiana. This is Illinois politicians pretty much when they didn't pass the bill saying that Indiana thing's a bluff. They don't have the land. Yeah, they're giving them the world and more, but they're not taking it. That press release they sent out 2 Fridays ago, I saw through it immediately. I was like, this is another ploy. Because they didn't say, we're 100% going to Indiana, and we'll figure out the particulars after that. No, we're advancing talks. We're advancing our pursuit of Hammond site. But they don't have that. They haven't had a permit for any of the environmental studies they need to do. None of the stuff that is serious corporation would be already done and had filed paperwork if they were really down the road with those corporations or the legislature of Indiana. So I don't think what they're doing right now is like 4D chess, like some people are thinking. It's not. I don't even think Pritzker is going to have a special session. He's just going to wait until November and have the regular session. And by then, if you're good to go, Bears, and you got your stuff together, then we'll have discussions and we'll pass a bill. Other than that, and also show up down in Springfield, which Kevin Warren nor George McCaskey know how to play the game and schmooze and whip and get some votes in your direction. They don't know how to play the political game here in Illinois or in Chicago, so they don't understand how to garner the support needed to get what you want. And that's what, whether you like them or not, another thing, Jerry Reinsdorf and the Wirtz family doing the 901 project on the west side. Privately financed. No problems for them. But one thing that Jerry Reinsdorf knows how to do is work politicians and work for his deal. So this is if I had to put a blame on it, I would say 65% on the Bears, 35% on the state of Illinois. If they move, I'm sure people will blame Pritzker. They'll blame Brandon Johnson for some reason. Like, he has no say in this, even though the Bears keep on egging him on and saying, yeah, you know what? If this thing falls through, maybe you're still in here. And Brandon Johnson is the useful pawn that he is, and going along with it, not understanding that they're not staying in Chicago. There's nowhere to stay in Chicago if they're trying to get an upgraded stadium. So, I don't know what's wrong with him, why he can't see why he's being used and how he's being used for the Bears' benefit against the governor. And that's going to further drive those two away. And that Brandon Johnson needs the governor for next year, which he won't get because he's going to have a tough mayor race. So it's going to be curtains for Brandon Johnson after next year. And I hope the next mayor understands the Bears are a foregone conclusion and not put any more breath into that until they move out of the Soldier Field and then figure out what to do with that empty space. But I digress. I think that the Bears need to understand that they're in the wrong right now and that they want to go somewhere, specifically in Arlington Heights, and take the deal that Illinois is giving them. Because if they're not, enjoy Indiana. I'm going to be on my couch watching them. But there's going to be a lot of people in Illinois and Bears fans really pissed at the Bears because they did make the move to Illinois and to Indiana. I'm not going to be one of them because I'm not paying that money. I don't go to the stadium anyways. But there's going to be so many people you're going to alienate for no reason other than get a good stadium deal. And I don't think you're even going to get that because there's so many variables and unknowns in Indiana that I think that's going to be held up for years past because of the environmental, because of lack of space out there, because of all the things that go wrong in that part of Indiana. And the Colts. Colts are in the state. I'm sure Indiana politicians are like, damn it. If we bring the Bears, we're going to have to give it to the Colts too in like 10 years. And the Colts are going to play hardball. They've moved one time before from Baltimore to here. San Diego's still available. They can move to San Diego too in 10 years if they want to. So you don't want this to mess up the team that you already have in the state by giving up the ship to the Bears, because then you're going to have to do the same for a team that's been in your state for 40 plus years.
All right, Herb, this has been so much fun as always. Thank you so much. Where you can find you on social media and all that other good stuff.
It is my last name spelled backwards, Ecknerwall, ECNERWAL 23 is for Robin Ventura on all the Twitters, the Instagrams. If you're looking at Instagram, it's just Herb Lawrence. But that's where I'm at. I'm just kind of not really in the business anymore. So my thoughts are usually on Twitter and or Blue Sky.
Well, you know as well as I do that, we love enjoying your work. And whenever you want to, you feel like coming on the show and spewing out your thoughts via your words and via the visual, we always here for you, your family. You know that it was nice. Like I said, it was nice seeing you get out of the Sox game the other day. And hopefully we get to do this again very soon. And you're more than welcome back at any time.
Really appreciate it, Sid. Thanks, LaKeena. Really appreciate
it. Absolutely. You have a good one, Herb. You
guys too.
Stay safe.
Right. Take care.
All right. That was our buddy Herb Lawrence. And we're going to take a really quick break. Of course, we'll do our sports potpourri segment as the Hurricanes will get their second Stanley Cup title. The U.S. men a great opener to their World Cup, and also including a couple of upsets. Also, we go animated once again for Old School TV Monday and a little bit of sports media news as well. LaKeena, McGee, Sidney, Bown, Second City Sports on Sports Chicago Sports Potpourri Reset, coming up right after this.
Poof.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
Got it done here. Ouch! And we're gonna make sure you lit this time. Ouch! You're not gonna get me this time.
Ow, Manny!
Whoops! Let's try an easy one.
Every day, we take steps to keep the people we love safe, but some health risks are easy to miss. Ticks hiding in the yard can spread germs, like the ones that cause Lyme disease. Mice searching for food can spread bacteria that makes us sick. Mosquitoes lay eggs in standing water and can spread West Nile virus and more. Cockroaches are drawn to water in the home, leaving behind allergens that can trigger asthma attacks. Common pests can threaten our health. Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org.
Hey, this is Corey McGee, and I listen to Sean and Maya on the morning show.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on the Monday Extravaganza edition. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. See, the kid is me, LaKeena McGee is she. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, and IG.
This is our sports potpourri segment. This is our last break of the show for today. So if you have any last minute questions or comments for us on any of the topics that we discussed thus far on today's show, you definitely hit us up right now at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Drop in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you.
First times in 20 years since Rob Brindamore himself won his lone Stanley Cup title with the Hurricanes. The Hurricanes shut out the Knights 3-0 to win their second Stanley Cup in their history. Taylor Hall opener with just under 4 minutes in the first period. You can kind of tell that was all she wrote there as Jackson Blake kicked in another one. And Nikolai Ehlers kicked in with a power play goal to cement that cup win. Brandon Bussey, who came in relief, we'll talk about what happened with Anderson in just a second, but he had 22 saves, another shutout for him, and you probably say that he could have probably won MVP, the Conn Smythe MVP trophy, but that went to Jordan Staal. Of course, he is now the 37 years old. He is now the oldest player to win MVP honors, as well as Sid, real quick, what did you think about the game last night?
We've been begging for it, especially on our last episode last Friday. We needed to see a goalie stand on your head performance. We got that from Brandon Bussey, as you mentioned. Great job for him, outstanding with 22 saves in net. And after what happened in Game 3 in that double overtime classic a little bit over a week ago, Carolina got their stuff together, and they really outlasted Las Vegas. Coming into the series, we talked about Carolina being a defensive team, but they can score as well. Vegas has a well-balanced team. They can play almost at either style. And give Coach John Tortorella credit for taking over the last week of the season and then getting these guys motivated to play once they got into the playoffs and taking it to this point. But I thought that fatigue was a setting factor for Vegas as the series went on after Game 3. Carolina woke up, as we said last week. Carolina needed to get off to better starts. You saw that in the last 3 games that they won in this series, including what happened last night. And we talk about it all the time on the show about how do you win hockey games in the playoffs. It's a little things, dump and chase, throwing it into the boards, battling for pucks in the corner, blocked shots and shots on goal. With the shots on goal, Carolina was +1 at that advantage, 23-22. Face-off wins, 33-30. Carolina, and of course with the block shots, +5 advantage for Carolina at 12-7. So scoring goals is the name of the game, but you got to do the little things to help contribute to winning as well. And Carolina did most of those things last night.
Yeah, they really did, and they definitely put a message out there that they definitely wanted it more. So you're happy for guys like your Taylor Halls. This is his 16th season in the NHL. This is his first cup. You look at Seth Jarvis, who you saw how he celebrated. He celebrated with his buddies and with his family. That was kind of hilarious mode. They were doing ice angels on the ice, which that was a pretty funny if you guys saw it. But that was a pretty funny. Also yeah. So you're also happy for Rob Brindamore as well. They've been close a couple of times. And you finally you saw how he reacted after they did the traditional around the ice with the Stanley Cup trophy. He just he was like, he had his shirt off in the locker room, which is very cognizant to what happened 20 years ago when they won. So he even admitted after the game, to his credit, though, like the first time he won as a player, his only one was for him because he had never won one. He'd been playing for almost 20 years. Now you can tell that how the players gravitate towards him and how they kind of rally around him. And now he can get that monkey off his back, his first Stanley Cup title as a coach.
Yeah, we talked about those teams like Carolina. We said this about Colorado a couple years ago. We say it about the Dallas Stars every year. You get to a certain point, but you can't. You don't have enough for whatever reason, whether it's injuries or bad luck or what have you, that you just cannot get over the hump. We saw this with Colorado a couple years ago. We've been talking about it with Carolina over the last several years, including when we was doing our shows down at IMS downtown. You knew that they had the talent, but some years they just couldn't compete against the bigger teams. But now, with the experience that they've had over the last several years during the Stanley Cup playoffs, having a coach like Rob Brindamore, having guys like Sebastian Ayo, and some of those guys that stuck around through this, Teuvo Teravainen. I know he's not on this team obviously because he's back with the Blackhawks, but guys like those young guys like that set the foundation. They were replaced by other young guys that followed that same template. They carried the torch. They finally broke through in that Eastern Conference, and now they're Stanley Cup champions. So, but you got to have certain guys that fit your system. You can have all the individual talent in the world, but if you don't have those guys that fit your system and get to do what it needs to get done, you're not going to be successful. But Carolina has the players that fits Rob Brindamore's style of hockey. They did the job all year long. They were one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference. They did get a little scared against Ottawa in that first round series, but after that, it was just almost smooth sailing. They took care of Philadelphia. They got through the Eastern Conference Finals. Of course, they were tested more, as we said. We said coming to the series, they were going to get tested by a better team, at least on paper in Vegas. They were tested for a while, but after that Game 3 heartbreak and double overtime, they woke up and won the last 3 games of that series.
Yeah, they really did, and kind of like somewhat dominating fashion too. Like I said, we talked about Jordan Staal. This is the second cup. We talked about. We didn't talk about that much, but we should. Shout out to Shane Gaddis. 33 years old, his first cup. Sebastian Hill, he's been around. He's not old. He's only 28, but he's been around. He'll be 29 next month. But
yeah,
he'll but even still, he finally gets his first cup. Also, shout out to Jacob Slavin, who joins Ken Morrow as the only American-born players to not only has a gold medal, but now has a Stanley Cup win to his credit. So congratulations to him. Keandre Miller, the brother on the squad, as I call him, he was there. He had a couple big assists in that Stanley Cup.
Yes, shout out to him. Yes.
Yeah, he gets his first cup. We talked about Seth Jarvis and Taylor Hall and Nikolaj Ehlers. And speaking of Mr. Ehlers, this that here involving him, of course, he scored that first and the last goal of the Stanley Cup final. He led the team in points. You'd probably say he probably could have been the Conn Smythe MVP trophy. He came just a third player to do so in his Stanley Cup final, joining Jason Arnott for the Devils in 2000, and Nell Stewart all the way back for the old Maroons back in 1926, about 100 years ago. So he joined that elite group over there. So they were kind of the dominant team. They were one of the favorites for next year's cup. It's actually pretty crowded too. But yeah, so we saw, Florida Panthers, they're going to want to get that cup back. And yeah, it's going to be very interesting next season, especially.
And you got teams like Boston, they need to reload. I'm not saying start over, but they need to add some key pieces as well. If they do, I think Boston will be back up there this year. And I know they lost to Buffalo. Which that Buffalo team people should not overlook anymore. I know they lost to Montreal, but look for Buffalo to be around next year as well. Nice job with that Jason Arnott reference. Good old number 25, folks. Like you said, from those New Jersey Devils teams back in the day. No, folks, I'm not on Google, so those Devils teams were very interesting to watching a different style of hockey back then. But you mentioned about Carolina, like we've been saying. They've been very dominant throughout the regular season. Got tested a little bit in that first round. breeze through the rest of the early round playoffs, and of course that Game 3 heartbreaking and double overtime set the stage for what they needed to do going forward. I still would have given the MVP trophy to Brandon Bussey, but it's not for the Stanley Cup final; it's for the whole playoffs. So of course, he didn't play the whole playoffs, so I understood why the Jordan Stahl received it. But if it was just for the final series, like they have in baseball and football for that one particular game, and of course, and basketball, just for that final series, I think Brandon Bussey would have received that award hands down. But great job by Rob Brandamore and his players all around, to the entire organization and coaching staff. Great job. Let's see if they can run it back next year. It's not a guarantee, but they're going to be forced to be regular now. And finally, they're getting that respect.
Yeah, so congrats to them. I know they're partying. Still all the Caniacs, as they call
Yes.
Canes fans. I'm sure they're partying right now down there in Charlotte. And just outside of Charlotte, this is Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. LaKeena, McGee, Sidney, Brown with you. Real quick, Sid, let's do the MLB schedule for this weekend. We didn't talk about the MLB as a whole, but Miami and Philadelphia, they kick off their series. I know Philly didn't have a good showing against Milwaukee, losing 2 out of 3 there. But I know Christopher Sanchez didn't have his best showing on Friday. Mizorowski, we talked about that earlier with Herb, and he is definitely the leader of the clubhouse for the NL Cy Young. Kansas City and the Nats. Nats had a solid weekend, beating the Mariners 2 out of 3. Okay, well, like I said, just if it wasn't for the White Sox, you got to think the Nats are probably the biggest surprise, one of the bigger surprises this year in baseball. The Mets against Cincinnati, San Diego against St. Louis. I mean, what more can you not say about the Mets at this point? As San Diego, they continue their East Coast trip against St. Louis, who they had a nice showing this weekend. Colorado, who scored this blew my mind when I saw this. 23-9. It actually ended up being their only win against the A's, but that's the most runs that the A's have given up since you gotta go all the way back to 1955 and the White Sox. That was the last time that's the most the A's. That's the only other time that the A's scored. I think it was like 28 or something like that they gave against the White Sox back in 1955. Really, I'm sure if you're a Cubs fan, you probably hope that that's all the scoring that they do against that they already put out their runs. And Minnesota and Texas, Detroit and Houston, the Angels and Arizona. The A's will try to rebound against Pittsburgh, and Tampa Bay faces the Dodgers. The first game of that series will be on ESPN tonight. And I think the Dodgers will not be in a very good mood. I'm just saying.
Yeah, and this could be a World Series preview as well. And going back to the Detroit Tigers real quick, Therese Scuba had his start on last Saturday against Cleveland. Looked okay. He was limited to 80 pitches, but the Cleveland Guardians took care of the Detroit Tigers last weekend. Of course, Jose Ramirez is out for at least for the next 10 days. He'll probably miss the White Sox series next week here in Chicago. I know Chase DeLauder, their rookie outfielder, he left the game too, so we'll see what his status is going forward. But Cleveland took care of Detroit, but did come at a price. The other series that will be starting tomorrow, the Toronto Blue Jays, who got dominated by the Yankees, they'll go to Boston to take on the Red Sox, another struggling team. As mentioned about the White Sox, they'll start their series against the New York Yankees tomorrow at the Bronx. San Francisco will face Atlanta. The aforementioned Cleveland Guardians, they'll face Milwaukee. Maybe another sneaky World Series preview. We shall see. You mentioned earlier, San Diego at St. Louis. Minnesota at Texas. The Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim will visit Arizona. Baltimore will face LaKeena's second favorite team, the Seattle Mariners. Those are the other series that will be starting tomorrow.
And the rest of your TV TBS tomorrow will be the San Diego St. Louis game, and on like I said, that White Sox Yankees game will be on Prime Video. Produced by the Yankees TV, and also on Thursday, if I can get it up here real quick, the first game of that Mets Phillies series. I know MLB Network thought this would be a better showing for the Mets when they made the schedule, but yeah, it'll be at 5:40 on Thursday, and Minnesota and Texas, and yeah, that's it. So that is scheduled for this week in MLB.
You listen to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago on this Monday extravaganza edition. LaKeena here with you. We still have a few minutes left before we close. LaKeena, I know you watched this tournament more than I did this weekend because Yoshua was down there at Sox Park. But we'll talk about the Men's FIBA World Cup. As we predicted on the show last Friday, you the soccer expert, I'm not, but USA, as expected, got off to a hot start by defeating Paraguay 4-1 last Friday night.
Yeah, that if you're the U.S., I think that's really the best showing that's really all you can ask for. With that game against Paraguay, a team that you should be able to beat pretty easily, and they did. I know they did beating one of the friendlies early on, but they were able to dominate Paraguay from start to finish. Now, interesting story about Florin Bologin, who scored 2 of those first half goals for the U.S. He's from England. Both his parents are Nigerian, and he is from England. But the problem is that when his mom was pregnant with him, she was over here stateside visiting relatives. They wouldn't let her leave because she was pregnant, and I guess they wanted medical clearance to be able to travel. So he ended up being born, I think, in just outside New York and in Brooklyn, and that's how he ended up becoming a U.S. citizen. So go figure with that one. So that's why he's able to play for the United States. So. But yeah, so far the U.S. men has looked really good so far, and I would say probably they play Australia. They don't play Australia until Saturday, and so we'll do Friday, I should say. So we'll talk more about that match coming up on our show on Friday. Now, really, I would say some of the bigger surprises. It just happened. It just happened about an hour, just a little under 45 minutes ago, as Spain, who was one of the favorites, got upset by Cape Verde. And I just wanted to mention the folks who were cheering for Cape Verde probably didn't know where the hell it was. For those of you who are wondering where it is, it's just it's on it's a little small on the ocean in Africa. It's actually on the west side of it. It's on this little island just outside Senegal and Morocco and those African nations. But a nice showing. But they've actually been one of the rising stars in one rising team. So. Good for them, but yeah, I mean, probably the Haiti-Scotland match was really, I would say, was pretty exciting. The Netherlands and Japan had a 2-2 draw last night. Ivory Coast and Ecuador, Ivory Coast had a stoppage time goal, so that got them the win there. Switzerland and Qatar with a draw. So, Australia looked really good against Turkey, so that's going to be a very tough matchup for the United States. But yeah, so far so good. I mean, I know the hydration breaks are a little bit weird for some folks, but I think that's more for folks to kind of folks at home to kind of stretch and go to the bathroom or whatever, because how folks can have to sit there for 45 minutes. That could be pretty taxing. So that's probably why they did the hydration breaks, just more for the viewers than it is for the players. So
yeah. I said this to a few people throughout the years. I do kind of like the running clock. I wish they would adopt that at some point in hockey. I know they'll never do it because of commercials and TV time, and the NHL and the sponsors pay a whole lot of money to broadcast games, so that'll never happen. But like you said, soccer is very interesting. Like you said, it's not that long of a break, but you get your games done at least at 2 hours max. Maybe if they go to overtime, extra time, it's still not that long. So I kind of like the pace in that, but it's just that I think most of us Americans, and I'll put myself into this, know just a little bit more of the rules than your average casual fan, that you don't see a whole lot of scoring like you do in your other sports. And even in hockey, sometimes you'll see a 3 or 4 goal outburst within a few minutes, a short amount of time. But in soccer, you don't see that too much. But whenever you see a score, they celebrate like it's the last great thing, because you don't see it as much, because you don't see them using equipment. They don't wear equipment or things along that line. They just use to move with their feet, and like I say, that their pass has to be precision with that football, as they say everywhere else. So those soccer players are skilled and talented as well. It's just that it takes a little bit more time for them to develop to score, and you don't see as many high scoring games as you see in other professional sports and collegiate sports here in our country.
Yeah, exactly. So so this is usually the time when everybody kind of watches soccer. I think about 15 million people watched that U.S. Paraguay match on Friday, and easily the highest. I don't know if it's like the women, but I know it's definitely the highest on the men's side. So, so far it's been good ratings for the World Cup. Now, Belgium and Egypt are about to kick off out there in Seattle. Saudi Arabia and Uruguay. That's going to be on FS1. And coming to you from Miami Gardens Arena, Hard Rock Stadium. That's going to be at 5 o'clock on FS1. Also, remember these matches are also streaming on telenovela, streaming on Peacock, and also will air in Spanish on telenovela, and also on Tubi as well. So you get to watch a lot of these matches for free. Iran and New Zealand to finish up. That's going to be at SoFi in Inglewood. That's your nightcap for these group of matches.
All right. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. LaKeena here with you. We're just about out of time, but before we close it out with the very animated edition of Old School TV Monday, any other news and nuggets you like to share with the rest of the class?
Just finishing up this week's matchups here. France and Senegal, that'll be tomorrow at 2 on Fox. That'll be over at MetLife. Iraq and Norway at Gillette Stadium in Massachusetts. All these games will be going to be on Fox. Argentina, the defending champs, will face Algeria. That'll be in Kansas City at 8 o'clock. Australia and Jordan, that's your nightcap out there in Santa Clara Levi Stadium. That's going to be on FS1 tomorrow. Portugal and the Democratic Republic of Congo on Wednesday will be in Houston. That'll be the first match there. England will be playing in Texas against Croatia. Ghana and Panama on FS1. Uzbekistan and Colombia on FS1 as well. Thursday, you got the finishing up. The first. This is the second. That's the last part of the first games for this one on Wednesday. Now Thursday will be the second part of these games. Czechia and South Africa. Switzerland and Bosnia, Canada and Qatar, and Mexico and South Korea. So, of course, you can watch all these games on Fox, FS1, telenovela, streaming on Peacock, as well as Tubi. So, just finishing up there. As far as the television side is concerned, nothing really of note. So, we can just go right into Old School TV Monday to finish up here. Well, it was something for Fox buying Roku at $22 billion. So I'll be interested to see the streaming wars. Yeah. So we'll just see how that goes.
Yeah, like I said, we'll get into that more on Friday. Now, usually around this time on Second City Sports on Sports Show Chicago, to end our shows every Monday, we salute an old school TV series, a cartoon, television special, things along that line, TV movies, and whatnot. This week, we decided to reach back to the animated world, and we were to look for this week The Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle and Friends. That's right. It was an American animated television series that originally aired from November of 1959 until June of 1964 on both ABC and NBC. It was produced by J. Ward Productions. The series was structured as a variety show, with the main feature being the serialized adventures of the two title characters, the flying squirrel Rocky J. Squirrel, and the moose Bullwinkle J. Moose. The main antagonist is in most of their adventures are the two Russian fearless leader. Supporting segments include Dudley Do-Right, a parody of old-time melodrama, Peabody's Improbable History, a dog named Mr. Peabody and his boy Sherman traveling through time, and the fractured fairy tales, classic fairy tales retold in comic fashion, among others.
Yeah, it actually showed up back and forth. It was on prime time, which was on ABC, but when it moved to NBC, it became a Saturday morning cartoon, being shuffled around there. And you could probably thank that for shows like The Simpsons and those like that. Now, if you saw, it aired on repeats, of course, but you can probably also saw, of course, the old Bozo show. Some of the shorts were aired during the breaks from that on that show. That's probably where you probably saw the first guy if you didn't see it in repeat. So the Rocky and Bullwinkle show was very interesting. The way, especially where this was the late 50s, so animation was just developing, and you can kind of tell sort of like the breakage of some of the animation and the graphics and such. So it kind of started that trend with Hippity Hoppity Hooper and also George of the Jungle. That kind of led that track of those cartoons. as well. So it also aired a little bit, during the 70s as well. There was a 70s version that aired on NBC, and also another 80s version of the Bullwinkle Show, which aired, for a season on 80, in the early 80s back on NBC. And during their Saturday morning live, I vaguely remember that show, but unfortunately that show only lasted about a year. So yeah, there have been and also there was another one that aired, I think in the 2013 on Prime Video. That only lasted, I think, about a year or two. So there have been various iterations of Bullwinkle, Rocky and Bullwinkle in the various parts since that, and it's still pretty much a good. Most of the episodes are on YouTube, so you can check that out. Very cartoony, violent. I know some people say that that's frowned upon now, but at that time, that was really the thing that kind of made these cartoons go.
Yeah, and what I liked about it at the time, it was noted here in my notes that it was known for its quality writing and weary humor, plus mixing puns of cultural and topical satire and self-referential, and it appealed to both adults and children. So, it wasn't any sneaky, dirty humor or anything like that. It was just poking fun, most of them at themselves and at each other in the most fun comedic way. So it was nothing malicious or anything about it. It was just good old-fashioned fun, poking at themselves and at each other.
Yeah, June Foray, of course, and also Dawes Butler, who we talked about, was the voice of Yogi Bear in a lot of those cartoons back then. So yeah, so the voice acting, I think, was really solid at that particular time, especially. So Boris and Natasha and Sherman and all, and among others. So yeah, I think that part was really what made Bullwinkle kind of stand out, and it's still beloved even to this day, even after all these years. So you still see folks buy Bullwinkle memorabilia and Bullwinkle sheets and cups and such. So if you got those as collector's items. But yeah, I think Bullwinkle kind of led the way for a lot of these cartoons, like I said, with the Simpsons and even other cartoons too, like the Flintstones and the Jetsons. We'll do those cartoons down the line as well. But yeah, that kind of started that trend of the animated features, especially airing on prime time at that point.
Yeah, and there were the forefathers of that. Just a couple of quick fun facts about the adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle before we close out. Both of these occurred in 2002. Rocky and his friends ranked number 47 on TV Guide's 50 greatest TV shows of all time, and TV Guide named Rocky and Bullwinkle as the joint third greatest cartoon character of all time. And of course, in January of 2009, IGN named Rocky and Bullwinkle as the 11th best animated television series of all time.
Yep. So, like I said, I think I think some would still say it's very underrated, but I'm glad that it's getting its flowers. Like I said, it's not. You can see it on Prime Video. But you can also see it but a lot of those episodes are on YouTube. So if you want to relive those memories, and also I think if you have MeTV Tunes, it's also on there too. I know it's on there. I think every weeknight. I think so. If you've got that on your cable or satellite system, you can check that out too. So yeah, so there are various places you can get the old Rocky and Bullwinkle show.
All right, so for this week for Old School TV Monday, we salute the old school animated primetime series, The Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle and Friends. LaKeena, take us home.
You can follow McGee on the Twitter, X, and IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sidney Brown, on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. Be sure to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in living color every Monday, every Friday from 12:15 to 2:15 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more again, as the kids would say. Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in living color every Monday, every Friday from 12:15 to 2:15 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
And if you missed our interview with Herb Lawrence, thank you again to him for joining us as always. Or if you missed our recaps of the NBA Finals and other stuff too, don't worry. You can catch the replays anytime, anywhere on the Sports Zone Chicago's YouTube channel. You can catch replays of our show, Sean Sierra Sports, the Smoke Fellas, and so much other great content. You can catch the replays anytime, anywhere on Sports Zone Chicago's YouTube channels.
And we will provide.
Enjoy the World Cup if you're into soccer. Also, I know some teams are finishing up their mandatory mini camps. enjoy the baseball. I know that, and also too, look, if you're into baseball, you got the College World Series going on right now, still up in Omaha. I know they're kind of narrowing it down to their final two as well. So not kind of a busy time, kind of a light time of year, but there's definitely sports out there you guys can watch. So enjoy all that. I know the WNBA. I know they're the Sky is. I know they have another game, I believe, Wednesday. I gotta check that up real quick. But yeah, they play again on Wednesday. I know they've been struggling lately, so if you're into that, you can catch them against the Liberty on Wednesday. You can catch them on USA Network. Hopefully, they can break that little streak that they're in. They lost 3 in a row, so hopefully they can break that streak. So, but even still, for Sid, I'm LaKeena. Be safe out there, folks. This has been Second City Sports on Sports Chicago. We'll see you guys on Friday.
Oh, this is something that you really like. Go Sox. Holla.